Good Monday morning and welcome to SimWorld today on this May 20th, 5:20. I am Marsh, joined by B-Ron after a Game 7 aftermath. B-Ron, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Marsh. There was a lot of chaos yesterday in those game sevens, man. I'm looking forward to talking to you about it.
Some good chaos, some bad. We'll start with the bad
Yeah.
chaos, which was the Knicks getting obliterated by the Indiana Pacers, and the Pacers just having a fantastic shooting night, 76.7% in the opening half, and the wheels on the bus of New York finally fell off as Jalen Brunson came out with a fractured left hand that ended any and all hopes in a massive blowout for the Pacers, who win the final two games of this series after an extremely disappointing Game 5 to advance to the Eastern Conference Finals to take on the Boston Celtics.
Yeah, once Brunson suffered that broken hand, I was like, well, that's it. That's it, man. They were leaning on him for pretty much the entirety of their playoff run. And it was only a matter of time before this happened, you know? Tibbs likes to run his guys into the ground, and unfortunately, this is what happens most times as a result. You know, you get to a point where you just can't keep up, and you can't do it anymore. And the Knicks they didn't have enough in the tank to get it done.
Look, as basketball fans, we are all winners because of this game. Because if the New York Knicks had advanced to face the Boston Celtics, it would have been the easiest series win. It would have proven nothing about Boston. That's not to say necessarily that Indiana arriving there will prove more, but as a quick tangent, we are all better off for the Knicks losing now and not being subject to a Boston New York conference finals with the current roster as it sits
Yeah, right,
for New
right,
York.
but there still would have been the story of the history of, oh, it's Boston and New York and they're finally back and all of that. There would have been that whole other side of it too. But yes, I agree with you entirely on that. It'd have been I think it would have been great. Go ahead, sorry, about
And
continue.
it would have lasted 5 games, and the Knicks would have won game 2, and then they would have gotten blown out in 3 through 5 because that's the way the Celtics play. But instead, it's the arrival of the younger generation in Tyrese Halliburton after an All-Star season, a potential All NBA season, All SWBA season, makes his way to the Eastern Conference Finals. He's been much better later in this series. He's been much better in this series than he was against Milwaukee. This is a turning point for Tyrese Halliburton's career, and if he can remain healthy, and I don't mean away from catastrophic injury, I mean away from the type of soft tissue injury that really derailed a lot of his season, we could be looking at one of the best point guards of this next generation, and this is just the first chapter, if you will, of that book being written right now.
Yeah, exactly. And how about the play of Pascal Siakam as well? 8 of 15, 2 for 3 from 3-point range, 20 points as well. And I don't know how true this is, so take this as a grain of salt. And you might know more than I do on this, but apparently he wasn't even playing in the SVBA. The like 2 years prior to Joel Embiid getting drafted or something like that. Something crazy, like he was a priest or something like that. And
I
he
don't
just kind
know
of
Pascal Siakam's life story off the top of my head, but what I do know is that the Pacers made a great decision to go in for him, and this is
yeah.
this is why
Hmm.
teams make swings, and this is why I think Pacers made a swing because they needed to get another star. And it's going to be difficult for Indiana being a good team because they have now a great star point guard in Halliburton to make the type of acquisition to bring in a secondary star. And so their decision to go out and maybe overpay ever so slightly for Siakam ends up being a valuable one. And at the end of the day, he was able to take advantage of a New York front court that was just beat up, right? You
Yeah.
tried to see OG Anunoby tried to go. That was not going to happen. Julius Randle, he's gone. The fact that the Knicks honestly came within a win away of the Eastern Conference Finals, I think, is a win in and of itself. The fact that Brunson breaks his hand ends up derailing that.
Yeah.
No derailment for Minnesota, though, as they storm back from down 20 to win in Denver, upsetting the defending champions in Game 7. This is a historic moment in the SWBA because Anthony Edwards is as good as they come. Uh, this game was he started off 4 points, 1 of 9, and then just goes nuclear in the third and fourth quarters.
Hmm.
Nothing more than I can really say outside of just awe-inspiring.
Yeah, and this is another one, Marsh, where you said it a minute ago. It's the rise of the younger generation of players. You know, we all kind of thought that okay, not all of us, but there's some people who thought that, sure, the T-Wolves may have won a couple of games here and there in the playoff series, but it was going to be the Nuggets who won because they were the defending champs and all that stuff, which of course that's fair to say. But I don't think that takes away from the fact that this was a great series from top to bottom. Both teams ended up playing really well throughout the series. We got for a reason, March. This was a really, really good competitive series and two teams that were really just on top of their games.
Be wrong. I'll actually push back on that. It was competitive because it went to 7, but none of these games were all that entertaining. I mean, Game 7 was the most entertaining just because, and even that was on the edge of not being because the Nuggets blew a 20-point lead. But even so, like, it's not as if you look at the Lakers Nuggets series where you have 2 game winners, multiple games
Hmm.
coming down. You look at the Thunder Maverick series where you have the final 2 possessions in the final 2 minutes really deciding everything. This series
Hmm.
had none of that. Game one was somewhat that, and then last night obviously had inklings of it, but it's still within the
Yeah.
last 45 seconds of this game, minute 15, it was decided. But you're right. I mean, we thought that Nikola Jokic would just continue to do what he does, and I think
Hmm.
this is he said it after the fact in his post-game press conference that this team, Minnesota, was built to beat Denver with their 3 bigs, with Gobert, with Towns, and with Nas Reed.
Hmm.
This is a redemptive arc for Karl Anthony Towns. I still think he's a bit of a bonehead at times. He had a number of fouls that were just absolutely idiotic.
Yep.
Almost fouled out in this one. Gobert does foul out. Uh, it's going to be an exciting matchup, but they're going to need a little bit more discipline out of Towns because at this point we know exactly what we're going to get from Anthony Edwards, and that is going to be a guy that does not back down, a guy that rises to the moment, and who dominates like he did last night.
Yeah, he's gonna be on his game, and I'm real excited to see how he and Kyrie and Luca kind of all go back and forth with each other in terms of how they keep up scoring. That's gonna be really fun to see and see how the game plan is for those three players on opposite sides of the spectrum there.
And the Mavericks, they took advantage of Oklahoma City's lack of big man depth. It was one of the things that the Thunder talked about in the aftermath of their loss. So Daniel Gafford, Derek Lively will be put to the test against Minnesota. All right, let's head to SimWorld Prep, where we yet again have breaking news exclusive here on SimWorld today, and that is the future landing spot of one Damian Luffy. After ruling out 3 teams, Luffy has committed to Gonzaga, joining Mark Few's Bulldogs and teaming up with Caden Ship. Big old congratulations to Damian Luffy, a top 10 ranked recruit at a SimWorld Oceania, returning stateside. He's from Washington. He's going back to the state of Washington to play for Gonzaga.
Yeah, that combo of him and Caden Ship is gonna be amazing. I don't think there's anybody doubting that. We know how good Caden Ship was when he played for the Bay Area Breakers, and Luffy is gonna add just more potent offense to that Gonzaga Bulldogs team.
Yep, they had the forward that they need. Caden Ship had a really nice season for Gonzaga this past year. They were a top 10 team at points. They had a nice run. They ended up in a really tough West region, but a very good basketball team. Caden Ship was a big part of that. You add Damian, I think that's just going to make this roster all the more difficult to defend. And then, of course, you have the news over the weekend that there could be a Kevon Jackson, maybe. Could Kevon Jackson, if he ends up in Gonzaga, I think you start to look at the Zags as a very early title contender next, and
Yeah.
they already are, but next to teams like Kentucky, like Miami, like UConn, who continues to try to add pieces. So big win for the Zags, and again, a big congratulations to Damian Luffy for his commitment to Gonzaga. All right, we had a pretty full slate of action from Saturday, so we're going to get to it. Two games rescheduled from Thursday, so let's get to our SimWorld prep wrap up. We are going to start this wrap up where our day began with Cascadia and Asia Pacific. And speaking of Kevon Jackson, how about 12 of 14, 85%, 26 points in a 66-56 win. Cascadia picks up win number 22 on the season.
Yeah, and that was a really good game for Cascadia, but Oklahoma commits, Chapa did his thing as Best Coast Ballers beat Somewhere Middle East 76-66. Chapa led the way, had 19 points in the win, and really dominant performance from Best Coast over Middle East that's, going to be going away at the end of the season.
AT Aliens led early. They went and they would hold on to that thanks to 20 points from Bevins and Patches. A big night from him, 50% shooting, 16 points from Roy Sanderson as well, and a 79-72 win for AT Aliens ends the recent hot streak here of Southeast Select in a very competitive Southern region.
And Gulf Coast absolutely beat down on SimWorld Africa, 68-49. Everybody, a little bit of everything for Gulf Coast, including leading scorer Aiko Kasai, 16 points, 4 rebounds, 2 assists, a steal in there as well. But, Kai Killens, Averton had a double-double and a win, and Sarah Jackson also pitched in 7 points. They had a really all-around great game, but Ethan Ledman on the other side of SimWorld Africa, 20 points, was kind of the do-it-all kid for Africa in the loss, unfortunately.
All right, that is our show. We will be back tomorrow morning. B-Ron will join us again. It's ahead of a big night in SimWorld Prep with the North and the Originators at 7 and H-Town Hoopers and Queen City Kings at 8 p.m. Also, no SWBA action as Tuesday is the beginning of our Game 7s as Indiana and Boston go toe-to-toe. And then we're literally looking at every single day of the week through the end of it. Hoops on every single night. If you're feeling like you need some sports action tonight, how about some Edmonton, Vancouver, SWHL Game 7 West second round winner advances over there. So if you're looking for something to fit your fancy, we are getting to that point in the season where it's both sports every single night, but then it suddenly becomes baseball every single night. And while everybody can love baseball, it might be putting you to sleep. So, all right, we are coming back Tuesday morning. Appreciate y'all joining us. B-Ron, thanks for coming on the show. I will talk to you tomorrow morning. I will talk to all our viewers tomorrow morning here on SimWorld TV, the only place you could see the game, be the game.